Well, I don't
I did it like a couple times. I'm like, wow. I'll shut that down. It's like, not doing that anymore.
Nope. All right, well, it's 6:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you to all of our guests that are here. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Is there anyone signed up for open forum?
There is not.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Hey, hang on. I think I was, we approved the agenda, but are we gonna approve the special meeting agenda?
It's in the closed session, because it was a closed session.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
So do you need to abstain then? Okay. Be noted.
That's, yeah.
Okay, approval for the regular open session minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the open session minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the open session minutes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Approval of transfers and payment of bills. Did anybody have questions about any of those?
Oh, yeah, I should. I do. I should have not. What was the charter bus for?
Charter bus.
Cavalier coaches?
That was,
Is that the ag trip?
yes, it was the
Oh, it
actor.
is?
I thought it was the
Okay.
music trip.
I think it was actually Wicked. That,
Yeah.
that particular payment was for the band trip to Wicked. So
Okay.
band and
The
music.
seniors.
And then what's the person? Is that? That's, we pay it? On
That
those?
comes out of student activities fund for the senior trip. So it's
Okay.
just something they get to choose how they go.
Okay. Which, yeah, because I'm just didn't have the knowledge of how we dealt with that, like this, above and beyond what our folks would charge, what are we doing, something like that?
Well, for student activity accounts like clubs, and in this case, it was instead of doing one senior trip this year, like one big one where they did an overnight, they did quite a few smaller trips. This was one of them, so they just get to plan out their trip, and they chose to take a charter bus. They had the money to take a charter bus in this case.
Like we pay it, they reimburse it type of thing?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I just was curious, really, for anything else, so I was wondering about that.
Any other questions? Pretty standard stuff to me. Can I get a motion to approve the transfer and payment of bills?
I move we approve the transfer and payment of bills.
Can I get a second?
One second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, maintenance report.
Hello, everyone. I'll start off by letting you guys know that we did hire one. Did hire a maintenance technician for the summer projects. It's working out really well. We had another applicant that is probably going to be starting hopefully next week sometime. We're just kind of waiting for him to get back off of his vacation and come in. And he's a gentleman that he's retired, so I mean, I know he's a pretty good painter, so I won't take much. Let him head up the paint crew while I try to get a little bit more, if it all works out. So custodian's been busy working on all the cleaning and waxing. They have pretty much got the entire, except for the common areas. Big common areas, all the rooms and everything are stripped and waxed and they're ready to move to the other schools. So they're ahead of schedule. So I'm pretty proud of them. We are actually going to probably be wrapping up the painting probably in the next week. So we can start bouncing down to the junior high and over to the elementary. So it's actually I was skeptical at first with not getting any of the applications, but now I think I actually get somewhere and get most of the painting stuff done. So scheduled maintenance and repairs, working on our summer project list. like I said, the ag building is complete. The high school is all pretty much complete. And there are a few rooms already painted down in junior high, but not too many. Unscheduled maintenance and repairs, brought TMI in for an issue that we had with our UR3 diving system, which pretty much shut down half of our elementary. Floor. So what we ended up having to do is they walked me through how to program the upper units to compensate, so the other diving units would take over that, and for the time being, until they can get down here and fix it, which they came down last Friday after I looked. And they've already taken care of it, so it's actually fixed and ready to go. But learned a little bit in that, how to make the other diving units actually cover for the other ones. So I think I can retain that, and the next time it happens, we'll have to call. Just tell them what's wrong with it, come down and fix it. Our maintenance shop and equipment, that building where has been giving us some issues. The hydro line to the right drive motor did go out on us. The right steering arm connection snapped in half. And then we also lost the front deck mount to the mower. Everything has been repaired. The front deck mower mount is not in yet. I'll probably have to get precision on that, but we did weld it back together for the time being, and it's working. Did the same thing with the steering arm, but did check in on getting a new one of those, and it won't be too much to fix that, but we welded it back together for the time being. Seems to be holding. Hydro line is leaking a little bit, but we haven't had time to take it out of the service to actually put it on there, but I have it on the workbench ready to go. I might try to get that on tomorrow, but the rest of it is taken care of and fixed. But it is starting to nickel and dime us a little bit. So now the old Toro, the beast just keeps going. So
And luckily it doesn't rain. There you go.
Yeah.
That helps.
You don't need
Yeah,
it. You know,
that's why I got a couple of painting done.
The drought.
So, everything else seems to be working fine. Contracted services, and Chris had to call his team to come down and look at that diving system, because I can't even put a set of gauges or anything on those diving systems because it's all computerized, so they have to bring down their laptops to actually diagnose what's going on. If it was old school split system, we did the story. Facility grounds, basically right now, keeping the grass cut and the fence rows cleaned out, and still got plans to do more landscaping and improvements, but kind of concentrating on, we have to get it on a schedule with the painting right now and fixing anything that we need to fix, so that it kind of falls in line with the custodians getting their rooms done. So faster we can move, faster they can move, so I'm kind of concentrating on the inside, but I do plan on addressing things though, if time permits. But that's still in the back of my head, just trying to get stuff done. As far as future projects and long range, we're just working hard on trying to get everything completed. That we set some pretty big goals for ourselves. So, be honest, some of them may not be reached, but we will go do our best. We're going to try to get everything. So, and I will keep you guys posted the best I can on our progress. I'm very proud of the staff. I'm really proud of the way they're busting through the high school. They even said this is the fastest they've got through all the floors and the cleaning and everything. So and they're just happy that there's a system that's going good. I'd like to thank everybody that came in and helped paint. We had some A+ kids that came in, got their hours, and that helped out a lot. And when Erin came in and painted the office, and it looks amazing. She helped out with that, so it's one less thing we have to do. And just want to say there's a couple teachers that assured me that their painting skills were up to par. So I wouldn't go ahead and paint their classrooms, and they turned out good. So that's 2 or 3 classrooms. So big thank you to them. I met with Roger Trout from American Water Treatment Incorporated. There is a new Senate bill that came out that requires us to do a little bit more intensive testing of our water. We have to get onto that by January 1st. I have to have a plan in place of how to do that. I did discuss with him about how to learn how to take the samples and everything, and it's just like, it is an online course that I'm going to take. I'll get that, that will save a lot. If you go with somebody and have them come in and take the samples, it's every outlet, including like your drinking fountains, anything outside your water spigots, around any sports complex has to be tested. And if you hire anybody in, it wouldn't run around $65 a test. And if you find, if something would be found where we have to correct it, then you have to have a plan in place for that, and then retest. Make sure your plan is actually functioning. So I'm gonna be worrying about that, trying to figure out what we can do to save money with that. If I can do the testing, I do believe we can get the test for around $20-25. And that's something we have to do. I mean, we have to look into that. So, and it's gonna be new to me. I've done a lot of, wastewater samples and stuff like that. But I need to learn how to do the potable water because it's over. So we're looking into trying to get that. He's willing to help me on that a little bit. He also is pretty knowledgeable on the heat pump system and trying to get those lines cleaned out. So I might work with him a little bit, see if we can't prolong. But we know we're gonna have to start replacing units in there sometimes because they are 20 years old, but getting those lines cleaned out and getting the water that's going through there less acidity will help those lines last a little bit longer. Maybe we can prolong it just a hair. That way we can start our cycle and get some replaced in the next year or so. Because I know it's a big expense. We just can't walk in there and start replacing all of them. That's the plan. Try to make them work as long as we can to get it on the cycle and start replacing.
You know, Cliff, sorry to interrupt you. I was just thinking through this as you were talking about the lead testing.
Mhm.
If we have 4 sinks in a restroom, those service lines are just a couple feet off of the A line. Do we have to test every single faucet, even though there's just 2 or 3 pipes?
Your lines and your faucet. Because your faucets have to be electric. So I questioned that too. It's like, why would you have to? Like,
I was just wondering if we could test the furthest one down that line, and then that should guarantee, but it sounds like.
Well, he is getting me all the paperwork and everything, and then I can start doing more research. But the way I questioned that too, honestly, and he did say it has to be every single, anything that's in your kitchen, it has to be anything you're going to use. That ice machine will have to be tested. Anything you use out of it for the water, anything that you get water out of.
How often do you have to do the testing?
This, once you get it tested, you can, as far as I know, you only have to do it. You have to do them all at once. And then after that, you have to pick sections. So you don't have to do them all. You can do like so many, which I don't know the number yet. What he was talking is maybe like 5 to 10 in each area in each building. You just have to stay up on it and then you rotate that. But like I said, I'm gonna get the material and I'll read up on it and I'll make sure I can give you a little bit better info on it. Yeah, he's supposed to come by this week and give me all the pamphlets and everything that I need to do. All the websites I need to download and start learning.
Is it like quarterly or what are you talking about there?
On the, I think it is quarterly on the, it might be annual. Honestly, like I said, I don't have the paperwork yet.
Okay.
It might be annual on the testing, but the big test you have to do by January. And I have to have a plan in place by January. So that means I have to have, if I'm gonna do it, I have to be licensed to do it. Or we have to have a company on the books basically saying they're gonna do our testing by January. You have to have a plan. You don't have to have it done.
Anyone besides you gonna get certified?
What's that?
Are we gonna have anyone else get certified with you?
I can see if anybody on my team would like to.
I mean, that's a lot to put on just you, and then if
Yeah,
you have sick leave or something.
I'm trying.
I'm sure, but
Maybe you go through once, Cliff, and then once you kind of see what it
Yeah,
takes to do that, then maybe select somebody else just in case.
I think that's a great idea because
Sounds like an activities department type deal.
Yeah.
They need to stay hydrated, I'm just saying.
actually, my first goal is I have to go through and get a count. That's the big thing. To find out exactly how many outlets we have that people use could possibly use for, even hose outlets. They I have to test those because somebody could drink out of those. So, it's just one of those things. Like I say, let me get the info in, but it does sound like a pretty intensive process that I'm gonna have to go through. I can get caught up on a lot of this and get the summer projects in line. If I get a little bit more help, then I can sit down and study all this and start the class. That's what I'll do in my evenings is figure out how to test water for it. That's about all I got. Anything else? Any questions? Yeah, like I said, some of the grass is growing. Majority of it. So we're just cutting it. We're just trying to keep everything looking good and up to par. My goal is to do a lot of things. I want to get that parking lot really high and everything else, but one thing at a time.
All right, thank you. All right, athletics report.
Thank you for having me this evening. Sorry, I'm still battling through this sinus infection, so please bear with me. Today, I just wanted to give you a couple of updates. The new conference ADs met on June 6th. And in the report I gave you, kind of outlined what it is that we did at this previous meeting and what we are anticipating to do in the July meeting. We spent a majority of our time really focusing on two things. One, scheduling. So we were able to schedule all of our conference games for football, softball, baseball, and men's and women's basketball. And so in the report I gave you what weeks those games were scheduled. We did really look at like our two furthest opponents in our new conference are Harrisburg and Fayette. And so we purposely scheduled those home and away for each season. So that was something I promised you that I would take a look at, and that was something that we did. We also set our rotations for our conference invitationals for golf, track, and cross country. And then we suggested a list of potential conference names for the superintendent's meeting that happened this week, last week. So the other thing with that, we are actually going to put it out as a contest for the logo between all the different schools. And so we thought that was a great way to get our community and our students involved. We felt strongly that the name should probably be, selected by superintendent's ADs. But the logo, we thought that was a fun way to get our kids involved in that process. And then the next meeting, we are going to look at scheduling our junior high sports, look at our bylaws, and start putting those together for the 24-25 school year. Kind of set those guidelines for that logo contest, potentially look at which schools we want to extend invites to, and then elect positions within the new conference. And so that meeting, like I said, will happen July 13th. For our supplemental salary schedule.
Before you go on, I mean, interrupt you, sorry, but about regarding the new conference, where's our volleyball? Where's that falling in?
Volleyball is only with 4 of the schools, and so that was.
It's not a conference, like there is no conference champion in volleyball.
There will be conference accolades, and that's something we started to discuss, but I'll make sure to put it on the July 13th.
So what was it, 17?
7 schools right now, as of right now.
Volleyball has
And
4.
4 would be us,
And then-
Eugene, New Bloomfield,
Right.
and Russell.
Okay.
And so that is something that I made sure that I mentioned that I want that put into our bylaws, that our kids will still get those accolades. Good.
Yeah, that was it. Thanks.
Awesome. Yep. Implementation of phase 2 of the supplemental salary schedule has been completed. So I took the advisement of Board of Education and applied those adjustments to that salary schedule. And so I'll share that with you guys so that you can see those things. Big things that I tried to really look for is the adjustment for head coaching stipends versus assistant coaching stipends. And so I was able to move those between 2 and 3%. So there's a division and a degree separation now. An adjustment to our assistant coaching stipend, which is on average 1% increase, and then an adjustment to some of our more high impact programs to give them a little bit As far as our budget is concerned, again, thank you. And what I've done is I've created a budget sheet, and so that we are able to track that for the upcoming school year. I've reviewed all of those changes and met with each head coach to kind of set expectations and guidelines and what that's going to look like, and kind of my expectations for tracking their budgets, as well as what is their responsibility versus mine. And so that is all set and ready to go. And then finally, on the on the end of my report, I just our kids have been busy this summer, really, really busy. And so I just kind of put some of the highlights and some of the things that they've already accomplished, what kind of they're looking ahead into the summer, and what they're taking a look at and doing. And so it's just exciting to see, how active our kids are this summer. And then also we are tracking what our weight room is looking like. We have 3 sessions, and in those 9 sessions for the week, 27 total, we had an average of about 54 kids a day. And so that was exciting to see. Coach Sampson's also keeping track of their growth with the new program that was purchased. And so, my big thing is by the end of the summer, I want to see what it is, what kids are attending, right, which coaches are in there, and then what our growth charts are going to look like at the end of the summer. So exciting, very exciting. I will say our freshmen and our sophomores are doing great things in there. So we're excited. That's it. Questions? All right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
All right, Superintendent Report.
Awesome. So starting with culture and climate, I think the best thing we could do for our climate right now is get our staff off to summer break. And here pretty soon this week, at the end of this week, our summer school will be there also. There is a focus on our new MSIP 6. That's the impetus for the survey that you see me send out here last week. I'll talk a little bit about that here in a moment. Personnel staffing, we're going to take a look at one of our elementary positions with a hire. We do have some movement in our secretarial positions from secretary to paraprofessional. We do have 3 secretary applicants right now, and just looking at it, I think we have a secretary or 2 in there that could do the job for us. 4 now as of today, yes. So that's looking good for us. Professional development, that's really a review, just continue to work with principals and ALT to allocate our PD funds. Same reminder, our PD process that I must have said this every month nearly. Our old PD plan was a process for requesting. It wasn't an actual plan. As we go through MSIP 6, our new PD plan will actually be targeted and focused professional development for our staff. That'll be tied directly to our district and campus improvement plans. Same focus really, instruction, learning, culture, and processes. Facilities, Cliff did a great job going through those. We are having some progress on our stadium bleachers, as I've seen, you've seen, I'm sure, as you came in. Those are extremely impressive. The companies and the volunteers that we had out here the last couple of weeks blew away my expectations for what they put in place. I'm really excited to see the renovation on the steel as it goes up and gets painted, and we actually get our bleachers in there. That is going to be amazing. Long range planning, we're in that contract phase. We have received a contract from Bond. Our owner Rep Navigate has went through that, and then we forwarded it to our Ed Council representative, and they're adjusting the language and sent that back to Navigate and Bond today. But we're looking forward. I may ask you guys at some point to do a special session. I was hoping to have that contract language ready for tonight, but it wasn't. Our council said, hey, there's a few changes that need to be made to afford the district protection and flexibility through the process. And so they're making those adjustments, and then I'll bring those back to you. If I need you to, I might need you to come in for a special session to just vote on that contract so that we can get our architect and planners here on campus and working just as soon as summer school is out. Facilities, we have sent out a general survey to staff, by the way, on facilities. Some of the big takeaways from that were very typical: more space and more storage. Very common anytime you survey your staff on facilities. They always want those two. A particular highlights there at the elementary, really wanted the original restrooms and the classrooms that were planned for the elementary that we didn't get in there. That was a common theme. Outside of that, the number one pre-K through 12 common theme was a lack of staff restrooms. Believe it or not, really didn't think about it. I have in the board office, the only staff restroom on campus, but that was something that kind of rang through all of our feedback, as well as exterior lighting in the parking lots and on the outside of the buildings. That was very common. We did get as a part of this is really very minor, but we got a chance to digitize all of our old floor plans and renderings through this process, which will be of value for us moving forward. Athletics and fine arts, I think you're there. Got a great update from Coach Minix on the logo. They were interested in getting kids involved in the logo. We had some great recommendations from the AD as far as our new conference name. We're going to send that back to ADs to ask if there's any others, but we also kind of wanted to get the districts involved and maybe naming it. So that's going to go back to our ADs at your next meeting and say, are you sure there's anything you want to add? And then maybe going to our kids and just seeing what they'll come up with, seeing if they're interested. But I am kind of excited that we give our kids to be a part of that, an opportunity to be a part of the process for the logo and the naming. Those are big. Budget wise, our workshop went really well. Not a lot. We just moved forward with what we planned there. Be presenting that in budget today. Audit will begin in a few weeks with our auditors. We did qualify for the teacher-based salary grant, again, giving us that minimum $38,000, which we were awarded about $63,000. That means that they pay 70% of that, which is just a little over $40,000, which is about $10,000 more than we received last year. But we'll go over the budget a little bit more in the action agenda side. Any questions?
All right, thank you. All right, discussion item 7.1, review the handbooks for elementary.
So just real quick, this is the first open session board meeting that Mrs. Cammie Higginbotham is here with us tonight. So for those of you who weren't able to make that, this is Miss Higginbotham, and welcome, Miss Higginbotham.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm so glad to be here. The handbook changes I sent you, there were no major changes really to either handbooks. Mostly were staff changes, just dates that needed to be updated, and then with us switching from SIS to Infinite Campus, I changed that wording as well in both the staff and the student handbooks. Field trips, and the student handbook, I did change the wording a little bit. It was worded that parents would be allowed to attend. I changed it to say they were allowed to attend, providing their own transportation and the background check being approved. Just another place for us to put in about that background check and let them know they could come to the office or reach out to the office if they had any further questions about that. Also reminding them that it is a process, so we can't just turn it in on Tuesday and expect it to be ready by Thursday, making sure they give themselves plenty of time for that to come back. So for the staff handbook, that was the only changes that were made. For the student handbook, again, it was just mainly changes to staff and names, and then the switch to Infinite Campus. Were there any questions about
that? Title I program evaluation.
So Melanie Brandt and Beth Bloom were not able to be here tonight, but they did complete that evaluation. They're doing a really good job of being data-based and data-driven and seeing how we can help our kids based on the data we're getting for them evaluate, as well as working closely with Jill, who we're bringing in 5 times a year. Last year, we would like to do that again this year. It's really helping us dig deeper into our data and how we can best support those kids, especially the kids who might have been affected by COVID. Any questions on that?
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, discussion item 7.3, A+ program evaluation.
So you received the addendum there in the agenda. Did you have any questions regarding?
The statistics with the number of students who received A+ as compared to how many graduated that year, that was interesting information to have, so.
All right, thank you. First reading of policy 410.
As we discussed, we talked about changing our board meetings from the third Tuesday of the month in policy 0410 to the third Thursday of the month for several reasons. So our old policy just delineated that it would be the third Tuesday of the month at 6:30 p.m. So the new policy would read, beginning August 2023, the regular meeting of the board shall be held on the third Thursday of each month at the hour of 6:30 p.m., except when a majority of the board agrees in advance and public notice is given. Public meetings may be conducted in person or by conference call, video chats, internet conferences, emails, and internet message boards. The only real change being that third Thursday versus the third Tuesday. Any questions about that?
All right, central office summer hours.
So as we go into the summer, this is my first real summer where I'm aware. I was still in shock at this point last year as a brand new superintendent, trying to get my feet under me. What we're noticing is that after about 4:15 in the afternoon, we average less than one person or one phone call to the board office. But we still want to make sure that we're available and attentive. So we're not really we are taking care of some paperwork and that sort of thing. But I think we could better use the time if we adjusted our business hours to 4:15 in the summer, and then redirected that last, depending on which staff member you are, 15 to 40 minutes, some training items that we need to take care of. For instance, we still need a notary in the office. We still need our Infinite Campus training. We can do our in-house Google One training. There are several things that if I could get them 15 or 30 minutes a day, we could take care of inside their contracted time versus outside. And so I'm just looking to create a little bit of space. We'd be looking at changing the hours maybe at the end of June for the month of July only. We would change that. We would do training in the afternoons. We would still have all of our contract time. And then at the end of July, we would get right back onto our normal hours. Just a way of creating some space and focus time for office staff personnel to make some progress on those.
That all makes sense.
And then our update on long-range planning.
So as I was discussing, we did send out an email to our staff to just get their feedback. Our top items were that space, restrooms near elementary classrooms, storage, staff restrooms, exterior lighting. There were some program and area specific items. You know, of course, we could always use more space to store band instruments or use in auditoriums and things like that. But in general, it was very typical feedback. Once we get the contract language finished through Ed Council, that's Rachel Mystad, we'll get our long-range planning folks on campus here in the next week or two, and we'll get them busy kind of doing a facilities audit and begin the initial stages of adapting what we have to what our feedback was and what our hopes are moving forward, with our primary focus being moving our kids out of the field house basement as soon as possible.
All right. Okay, action items. We need to amend the 2022-2023 budget to actuals. So
Do you have any question about why we do that?
Why don't you?
Okay, so typically, different districts do this in different ways. Some districts do it every month, like Jefferson City, for instance. They had a Jason Hoffman there who he amended his budget to the detail, to the dollar every single month through the year. So this would have just been an amendment item versus amending to actuals. What this says is at the end of the year, regardless of what is, or not in light of what is in our software and our accounting system, that is how we intended to spend our money. So as we go through the audit process, for instance, we didn't plan to spend as much on facilities this year as we had, but because we did go ahead, as we were aware going through the year, that means that those particular budget lines appear to go negative. Now that negative is only in our accounting software. All that money comes from one of 3 pools of money anyway. So you can have 50 different budget lines and one of them be negative, but the overall pool be vastly positive, if that makes sense. So when you go into your audit, if you want to tediously go through and say, well, you planned on spending 50, but you spent $51, and that being an issue, not an issue, but that being a recordable item, if you approve to actuals, it means that when you go over by that $1, it's not that big of a deal. Whatever you spent, you intended to spend, and it kind of smooths out that auditing process quite a bit. It means there are no surprises here. Yes, you might see negatives in different lines, but in general, we intended to do that. I would like to move away to amending to actuals. I just think it feels loose. And I think after I get a better handle on it, we should be really laser pointed as I get better at how this budget is, but it does serve its purpose. Probably saves us quite a bit of money on the auditing side because they don't have to ask any questions because, well, they meant to spend it that way. And it's board approved that yeah, that's the way they wanted to spend it. Does that help at all?
Okay, so can I get a motion to amend the 2022-2023 budget to actuals?
I move to amend the 2022-2023 budget to actual knowledge.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion passes. Approve the 2023-2024 budget.
You guys know much of the budget considerations because of our workshop, but I want to make sure I go through them in open forum so that our public is aware. So our anticipated expenditures and revenues will leave us with about a 34.53 ending fund balance conservatively. I think we're going to end up better than that, but conservatively 34.53. In preparing the budget, I anticipated all revenue sources conservatively at static being no increase. Actual, that means whatever they actually were this year, which typically there's some progress and increase, or conservative 1 to 2% growth with only our assessed valuation at 2%, which we've had a minimum of about 2.7% over the last 5 years. 2% is very safe. Still state formulas, state adequacy target of 63.75, used all of our federal funding allocations through EPEGs, and also in consideration of the teacher-based salary grant being offered, which it was, and we've accepted since I wrote this report. The following things were what I would consider not big deals, but very notable items in this year's budget. An increase to the teacher-based salary. Our 0-year base salary of $34,300 will be moved to $35,300 with a $1,000 increase. So that means each of our teachers will move up a step, which is a $500 increase, and then up $1,000 across the board, with our vertical steps year to year still being $500 and our horizontal steps moving through education from bachelor to bachelor plus 16 still being $625. Our step for our classified folks is 1.7% as well, but I also added 3% to each of their hourly wages for a total of 4.7%, with the exception of 2 areas that were below minimum wage. For instance, part-time cook, we didn't have that for a while, so our old salary schedule was below minimum wage. Also made competitive salary adjustments to our administrative staff. We established phase 1 and 2 of our activity stipend, increased our activities funding about $33,500. We had increases to transportation, and I predicted an increase to food service costs. I think we'll end up better than what I presented to you guys here in the last month, but I still predicted a bit of an increase. Also increased campus supply budgets, added a high school sped secretary, and relocated a full-time employee to the activities department, as well as adding a teacher at the elementary level. Committed to stadium improvement match of $25,000. And then also did a transfer to Fund 4. I had originally anticipated that at $100,010. It is $80,135 at 2.125%, which will help us with some of our projects relief. That will still leave us something that I put in the notes. For some reason, our budget document is not pulling the phase 2 of our activities department increases, that phase 2, nor the additional secretary. So we end up at 33.18%, which is 1.02% of where I told you we would be at. When you take a look at those two expenditures, we will still be about 0.23% ahead. So we'll end up about 32.39% on the very conservative side going into next year, the end of next year's budget, 23-24. So we're in good shape. I think we've pretty much raised everybody's salary across the board, somewhere in the 4 to 5% mark. Actually, on the teaching side, when you look at stipends and step and the increase to base, I think it ends up being 5.88 or 6.88%. I think it's 5.88% that we added when you consider the total increases divided by the number of teaching staff we have. I'm happy with it. It still keeps us above our threshold of 30%. For the record, in case the public doesn't know, DESE recommends about 20%. We like some cushion. So we're going to keep it at 30%, knowing we still have some cushion if something comes up. And then that 2.16 above will still give us about $110,000 or $150,000 in between 110 and 120, sorry, kind of in our rainy day fund, and we'll still be above our 30% threshold. But I tried to be conservative. My predecessors were conservative also, and I think that's best practices and smart business. And I also think us investing our money in our people, that's where the majority of this went, is a good idea. Someone shared an article with me in our Retired Teachers Association that said over the past decade, whilst teacher salaries have increased significantly, they have lost pace with inflation about 6.4%. We didn't quite get there with our roughly 5% increases, but we are chasing it and trying to spend our money on our most valuable asset, which is our people.
I appreciate your work on all of that.
Well,
Any other questions about it? Can I get a motion to approve the 2023-2024 budget?
I move we approve the 2023-24 budget.
Any other discussion?
We need to keep spending money on our people going forward. That needs to be a focus of this board for sure. And I know it's a focus of Bob's, and I appreciate him saying that. And we took some set steps to begin, the process of getting as competitive as we can with regards to paying our most important people, which is the people that are working directly with the kids every day. But that has to always be a focus of ours.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries. Announcements. Our next regular meeting will be July 18th, 2023. And can I get a motion to adjourn to closed session?
I move we adjourn to closed session pursuant to RSMO 610.021 subsections 13 relative to personally identifiable and viable employment information, 3 personnel actions, 6 personally identifiable student information, 1 legal actions involving a public body and or privileged communications among that body and its representatives, attorneys.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Mark,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Naomi,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Jamie. Yes. And I'm a yes. We're in closed session. Thank you guys for